Well, happy Monday, everybody. Pastor Steve here. And as always, thank you for being with me for today's devotion. As you're opening your Bible to Mark 6, just want to ask you to be praying because this morning, uh, music camp and sunbeam camp starts here at First Baptist going all week. Sunbeams is our day school ministry. So a music camp and sunbeams camp going on this week. So would you pray for the kids and the leaders? Um, Two very well known miracles of Jesus take place in the second half of this chapter, which we read today. One is Jesus feeding the 5,000 with the bread and the fish, and the other is Jesus walking on the water during the nighttime. Amazing stories. But what really caught my attention, and I want to talk about a little bit and share a devotional thought from, is verse 52. This is when Jesus had walked on the water and um, quieted the storm, got in the boat and all of that. And there's a summary verse, verse 52, for they, referring to the disciples. Because remember, when they saw Jesus walking on the water, they thought he was a ghost. They were just shocked. And it says, for they had not gained any insight from the incident of the loaves, the previous miracle when Jesus fed the 5,000. They had not gained any insight from the incident of the loaves, but their heart was hardened. Their heart was hardened. What's going on here? Is this some form of Reformed theology, Calvinism, predestination, that God hardened the hearts of the 12 so that when Jesus fed the 5,000, they wouldn't learn anything from it? No, no, no. Has nothing to do with that. So what is going on? The word heart in our English Bibles, in the biblical language, means more than what we normally think of when we talk about, I love you with all my heart. And we normally think of only the emotional part of our being when we talk about our heart, unless we're talking about the physical heart. In the biblical language, both the Old Testament and the New Testament, the heart, the word that is translated heart, was a broader word. It had the idea of it dealt with your emotions and your feelings, but it also dealt with your mind, your thoughts, your intellect. Really, it's your total inner being, your total inner personhood, not just your emotions. It's everything. And when it talks about the inner being of the disciples being hardened, the word hard there means sort of like you think it does, hard like a stone, but it's the idea of being callous, of being insensitive, of not being responsive, if you will. To really understand what is meant here, the NLT, the New Living Translation, I think gets it really well when it says their hearts were too hard to take it in, to take in any of the wisdom or insight they should have gained from what happened when Jesus fed the 5,000. They simply had not learned anything from that previous experience. Their hearts were such, they didn't reflect on it. They experienced it, they saw it, but they did not take the time to think about it, to reflect on it, to learn from it. They were busy. As soon as they collected the leftovers, they got in the boat and started rowing, and then they were caught in a storm, and they were busy doing, and too busy to reflect and learn. They just didn't, it wasn't a priority for them yet. Language can be a tricky thing, especially when you translate from one language to another. Things can get lost. The bottom line is they just weren't interested in taking the time to learn from this experience. It's sort of like Friday's devotion from the book of Proverbs, that we need to apply ourselves to discipline and to learning wisdom. If you don't make the effort to learn, you're not going to. And this is an example of the disciples not making the effort, not applying themselves to learn from what Jesus had just done. And isn't that just like us sometimes? We get so busy going from one thing to the next thing to another thing that we don't take time to think about any of the things, that we don't reflect, we don't learn. Some of us run from quiet moments because in quiet moments we have to think. When we have to think, we are challenged to think about our lives and examine things. And if we're uncomfortable doing that, don't want to do that, or unwilling to make any changes that might come out of doing that, what do? We keep ourselves busy so there's no time to think and reflect. We keep noise on. We keep the television on. We keep the radio on. We have noise all the time because quiet means you have to reflect and think. And if your heart isn't ready for that, your mind isn't ready for that, then you'll distract yourself. And Satan, I think, loves our busy American culture. He loves our busy lives because as long as we stay busy, whatever the reason, whatever it is that's causing us to be busy, he's happy. The last thing Satan wants is for you to be still, quiet, and think and reflect and learn from God. One of the reasons the Bible talks about being still and know that I am God. Satan doesn't want you practicing biblical Sabbath. He doesn't want you retreating. He doesn't want you reading the Bible. Doesn't want you learning how to write in a journal. He doesn't want you reading things that will help you in your walk with God. Doesn't want you meditating. Doesn't want you worshiping. Doesn't want you giving time to small group accountability. So he will keep you distracted by keeping you busy. And if your heart is hard in the sense that it's not soft toward the things of God, doesn't mean you're a mean person or an uncaring person, but your heart is not given toward application and toward learning, then Satan's happy and you don't grow. Now, eventually, the disciples would gradually change. I'll just reiterate what I said Friday. Be committed to learning the wisdom of God, the truth of his word, and growing. And take time to reflect on what God says, to reflect on your life. It could end up being the very thing that, in one sense, saves you. Well, that's the word for today. I'll see you tomorrow as we look at Mark chapter 7. God bless you, everybody. And remember, pray for music camp and pray for our song band. God bless you.